Hello, what is happening? I figured I'd jump on tonight and do a little work on the old Trail King build. I haven't dicked with this thing in 3, 4 years. Yeah, probably two actually. I think the last thing I did on it was I got the lockouts, the SSD lockouts that they made and came out with. That's been probably 3 years actually. And I got them when they first come up. Put them on here. Drove it a couple times. She's been hanging on the wall because I've been busy and doing other things and other builds. And let's see. Oh, that's right. I'm in this camera. Let me jump to a little better downward view. But over the weekend, I took it and went to a comp and ran it in class one and nonchalantly placed. But I actually won best of show or show and shine, if you will. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I never expected that. It wasn't a lot of cars, but it was cool. And it gave me a little inspiration to jump back into it. I had a set of hinged hood, sprung hood hinges that I never put on. I had those for probably 7, 8 months, a year almost, maybe. So I decided to go ahead and put those on. And when I put them on, I got looking at the engine bay and go, gosh, she's awful empty in there. Now it's time to go back to the other camera that I was on. Looking awful empty in there. So I figured it was time to, get the motor going. I said she's pretty empty in there. Not super strong springs. They don't hold it up the greatest, but they'd hold it up. But yeah, she's empty. Hobby Wing X 3300 version 1, the original version. When I built it, I added a 3D printed cowl extender. They had a couple versions. This was the 10 millimeter version. And that was what was needed just to move the motor enough forward and raise it a little bit because it mounts in a slightly higher location than the original mount, going right to the bell housing on the SSD tranny on this Trail King kit. And it fit perfectly with the motor. So I figured I'd spend time taking care of that. Move you over. I got the motor off the other, part of the desk. Got it all kind of cleaned up. Did some work to it. Got to wipe it down a little bit better. Do a little bit more kind of washing or wiping on it just to kind of get the rest of the dust bunnies off. But I figured I'd take the body off and set it up and put that on. Add some details to it. So for shits and gins, I figured, all right, let's jump on. Haven't worked on this one in a while. I put the hinges on already. I was going to do a live last night, but I didn't. I got, thinking about things after I got stuff done today, and I'm just sitting around here chilling right now. And okay, let me go ahead and do that. Right, I got to undo these fronts. So that is the one thing I have to do. Tools. I'll need you. I'll probably need you. Pop this bumper off here. I wonder, I can't turn that. Maybe I can. Let me see. Let me try. Go back because I do have some. Yeah, it's got a zoom, but it's already as low as it can go. I wonder how high I can make it. Oh, quite heavy. Wow. I think it'll zoom right in. That's kind of cool. So at least I know I can use that when I'm doing some intricate stuff. Can't do that one. All right. As close as it is. But yeah, I got a little capture set up here I put on this. That just kind of pinches the front down to the chassis front brace, basically, that you would mount your bumper to. Worked out perfect. Of course, I set this up first, got it in position, and then looked in the back and found a location to mount the two body mounts that I use in the back to hold the back, and the stock body mount spots that RC4 Drive put in the body. So that really kind of made things easy. Things lined up real nicely that way. But yeah, this bumper in the comp was no friend. As you can imagine, it hooked and caught on everything. There was one obstacle. There was no way I could get up it. I tried 5 different approaches, all around it. And it had such an undercut, I couldn't even get up to it with the bumper without the bumper getting caught in the undercut. So it is what it is. Total gift for the Class 2 win. But the show and shine, that was, an authentic win. Oh, come on. Let go. Let go of my Lego. I should drill those holes out a little bit easier so these screws go in and out a little bit easier because I'm using nuts on the bottom of it anyways. Trying to get it out and it's going back in. You son of a dog. There we go. Now I'll set this aside for the moment. Move you aside for the moment over here. Lost my spring piece. Let me go ahead and do that. I think I got the drill in there right now. These are just a little too grippy on the slide through there smooth without biting too much. And biting on the bottom still. Biting on the bottom still on this side. Where are those 2 holes going through there? It's right there, way back there. Way back here. There we go. Now, that rolls smoother. Move smoother. You guys up here. The winch controller quit working. I went and took it out and powered it up directly, but had no love. It did not want to happen. Pop it off. I ordered a new one. I think I shoe glued this thing, E6000, so yeah, it came up pretty easy. There. Oh, maybe no, it's plugged in still. So maybe that's all it's come unplugged in. No, it's totally because I plugged it in directly and it ain't working. So I got a new controller coming, so we'll take it right out, get it off to the side, out of the way. Clean up the residue and get it ready for the new piece. But yeah, this thing's a pig though. It's heavy with that body on there. Metal all over the place. I got the metal tubes on the axles. So the only thing not metal on the axles is the original pumpkin because they never made a metal one unless you have the diamond axle completely, and I don't. These are the Pro 44s. I suppose I can undo these and just solder a new lead on there. Probably do the same thing. Take this lead off here. I soldered on and soldered it on that one, so it's easier to plug in. Might swap these out to JSTs because I got some. But so as you can see here, let me get her over here a little bit better. Bump her down. I've got a bell housing here. That's an extension. Things and bring her up closer. That's a 3D printed part. I bought that off of out of A-Main. So they do have them if you got one, and it will allow you to mount your motor closer. So let's get our motor off our stand here. I had to take a little bit of time. Brush down the dust bunnies and then replant some plug wires that had popped off up on the distributor and stuff. These are actually paper clips, wrapped wired paper clips. Let's go ahead and pull you guys right up out of here, out of the way. This thing does fit. I'm going to have to take these out. I have tried before. Got it on there. It's a tight fit, but it does go. I don't know if I ever tried to get the oil pan on with the wire set up the way I have to run the wires out because this motor is quite a large motor, these 3300s. I'm going to need the small one. When it comes to brushless motors for crawlers, it's one of the biggest. Until you get into like the Tekin. So a tight fit, but it do fit. Just gotta kind of push those wires down a little bit. Get it lined up just right. That's in there. Put a light on her here. I say she's a tight fit. Snug there. Get her to tighten up well. There we go. V8's installed after 4.5 years. Been hanging on my motor stand. Now my motor stand's naked, but I've got a jerk chain, short jerk chain to wrap around the bumper now. Of course, I got a good long one on the wall. I have to wrap on one of my bumpers here. I think that'll go on Old Bastard though. Okay. Now, I don't know if I can do much with the cover here. Let me see. I'm gonna have to do something to kind of prop up the front so she don't smash on my motor and wires and mess things up. I haven't driven this thing enough in the last couple of years. I really need to get out and give her more trail time. He's a good runner. I mean, it handles well. So, can I get this sucker on here? I don't know, without taking things off. Guess we can try, because I was able to enclose it. I don't know if I want to because of potential heat. Try to keep her cool. I might have to take the nope, got her. I guess that's the wrong way. It should be the right way, I think. Yeah, see, that's where the kind of wires kind of get in the way a little bit. Let me see if I can. Thought I had them pulled back out of the way, tucked in there, where I could get that in there. I might have to work them a little bit. I'm going to pinch it in between the side of the plastic motor, the plastic engine, and the electric motor. And down a little bit. I can do that. Let's see. Plenty of room on that side. I guess it'll still cover. I can put it on. It's not collapsing all the way down because that motor is way too big. I'd have to actually 3D print or get a 3D print. How you doing, buddy? Then the other rigs that I no longer have. I don't have a Nitro 1 anymore. I don't even have a gasser anymore, surprisingly. How you been? Appreciate that if you're not or weren't. Yeah, I get those too. I know I've subbed to people and then I see their videos and I'm not subbed. I'm like, did they unsub me? But I think it's YouTube. If it like lags out, if you don't go visit them in 3 months, it takes you off their list. Hey Joker, how you doing, buddy? As far as I can tell, it because there's quite a few people I've went back and found their stuff and I've been unsubbed and I was like, what the hell? Yeah, I should get another one. I see when HPI dropped their Bajas again here about a year ago now. I almost jumped back in. What's up, Max? Good to see you guys. Almost jumped back into one, and I may get one. The new low CT, 3G gasser looks pretty nice. $1,800. It's a bite for a full rig that I know I'm going to throw money at because I'm going to upgrade the damn thing. Because you almost have to with those. One of the first things, it doesn't matter how good they put them in there, you're going to need a good steering servo. So, you're looking at $400 for a race steering servo right off the get-go. So you're right at $2,200. Yeah, I see, a few. I don't know that I haven't really went through my list. I know I get people from other countries watching, which is cool. If they're actual people. Never really say much, but it adds to the sub list, at least for now. But if I'm not subbed to you, OG, I'll make sure I get to it here after we're done. Or I should say after I'm done. So yeah, I've been, if you just popped in there, I've been doing a little work on this SSD Trail King kit that I've got my RC 4-wheel drive Blazer body mounted to. And it's not had a motor on it since I built it. I got it all kind of ready, but never kind of went anywhere, stopped with it. Took it with me last weekend and ran class 1 with it because it's my only tiny tire truck at 419 and actually, nabbed a second, but more cool is I got the show and shine win, which I thought was cool. And that gave me some inspiration to kind of jump back into this build and do some more stuff. I got a lot of stuff I wanted to do to it. I just haven't done it. But I guess about the only thing I'm going to be able to really do here is get some longer screws and just kind of screw it in there and hold it in place temporarily, essentially, just so it looks like it's there. I'd have to really, really cut out some stuff. So, best thing to do is have somebody 3D design. It looks like about a 5mm, maybe a 6mm oil pan filler for the 3 front and 2 sides. But for now, I think I got some longer, small screws like this one that'll work in there. No, the Trail King didn't come with wheels. It was a roller kit without wheels and body and electronics, obviously. But these are the, let me see if I can get you a better look. The Steelies from SSD. They're a 1.9 Steely rim from SSD, kind of like a wagon wheel. Yeah, and I liked them quite a bit too. That's why I bought them. They look nice, and being Steelies, they're going to add a little bit of rotational weight, but a little bit of weight down low because they are, well, wheels. Let's see. I should have in here a couple small and longer M2s. If not, maybe in one of these bags. There's a longer one. A bit longer. Doesn't have to be much, but a little bit. There's a stainless one. So I thought I actually had was. I know I got them. There's another Steely. Stainless. I know I got a couple more. I should have a couple more right in this box here. It's not as long. That's a little 2.5. I think that's a 2.5. There's a short one. There's a longer one. If I can find one where the short one will work. No, it's not there. I don't think there's anything in there. These hexes can go somewhere else other than this box. Same thing with those ones. So this set out and go in that other box. Red cap will work on those. Okay. These should work. I think it's the blue one. No, it's that one. Okay, let me see if I can get this bad boy mounted. But yeah, SSD, you should be able to find these. These are a fairly, I wouldn't say popular wheel. They're a steel rim. I can't remember exactly what they called them. Ain't the Woodies or something like that. Boy, these may not be long enough. Actually, now I'm looking at it here. Ooh. Actually, I might be able to get lucky and just a couple threads on each one, just to kind of hold it in place. Oopsie. Not magnetized. Ooh, damn, didn't want to do that. Mess up the motor wires. They're kind of a pain sometimes to put back into place. There, it finally slips in the hole. didn't you? It slipped outside the hole. I missed the hole. Anyway. Right in there. Let's see if I can try to get one of the other side done. Panhard bar and axle is pretty much right in the way. Let me see. Or the tool bag, I should say. Let me see if I can give it a little bit of persuasion here. Help push the shaft into place. Bingo. A little better positioning. Let's see. Maybe this is really cheap Chinese steel. We'll find out. Be pretty good stainless. It's not magnetizing. So I'm gonna have to pick it up. I guess I can go to the other camera. You'll get just about as good of a view as I will. Let me see. Oh, the hoist? The scale engine hoist? Yeah, just 3D print free over on Thingiverse, I believe it was. I don't know if you're gonna get that good of a view over here, but you might. We'll need some longer screws, I think. I don't think I'm going to get her with this one. Just a little too short yet. Might have to go look for some longer bolts. Hard to see. Close, but not close enough. Trying to get that sucker lined up a little bit better. I think I'm going to, though. It's going to be in the way of the pan hard anyways, so. All right, no oil pan. Which is fine. I ain't got to worry about this motor getting too hot, all closed up. Oil pan would have been cool, but without totally modifying the hell out of it, it ain't gonna work. But that's all right. I don't need the oil pan, just for looks, anywho. So, with that being said, motor's installed, good to go. Except for having to put the new winch controller in place when it comes in. Once I got that in place, I mean, I don't need that in place to start doing the other shit, but now I can start actually doing the engine bay here on the body. Start getting the rest of that stuff all in place. You guys back up where you belong. Just gets in there too. Put you back in place. We'll take a good look at her. Yeah, I got printed out two of those. They work pretty good. I got a Creality 3D, and I didn't do any modifications. I just ran it. I think if I learned how to better set up the 3D printer for, doing the fill and these, textures and things like that, I think it'd, come out a lot better. Clearly. Okay. Pinch the front. Yeah, not an easy body on and off. It ain't bad. A little tricky. Not bad. Okay. Fight with me before. There we go. give you a good look at the wheel there. Get rid of the shadows anyway, somewhat. There we go. There's a good view of it. Yeah, SSD is what those are. You back over there. Put my wires back on. The engine. All right. So let's come back to our other camera. Now we'll take a look. Doesn't look so empty. Got my coil wire here. Go to the coil pack. That's pretty much how I, figured it'd be. I might have to bend it a little bit, and I will. But now I can start, doing the interior, putting the stuff on, adding batteries and things like block tanks and such. I could probably put these on each side, but I'll add more scale items, things made for the Blazer, Chevy stuff. Do some fabbing up. Yeah, it does. It looks good in there, especially if I can get a fake radiator. Get a 3D printer radiator. It kind of slides around the servo and stays out of its way. Get a fan and some pullers in there. Of course, no fan shroud. Can't have a fan shroud anymore. They had to come out to work on something. Get radiator hoses in there, so it's all set in place. Let me go pull this out. You can see a little bit better. So yeah, actually, and you get some, see if I can make or find or 3D print or, because I'm not good at designing. I'd have to figure out how to design, but get some or modify some RC four-wheel drive, or I'm sure RC four-wheel drive probably has some fender wells, but get fender wells in there and then start, working on the engine bay. I want to lift the dash. I don't know if anybody's ever had one. Whoops, look like I lost the camera here. Maybe there. Oh, I see. I hit the close button. So if you've ever seen the dash on the RC four-wheel drive, it's pitifully low mounted. I mean, the dash is way down, and the top of the dash should be above the bottom of the windshield a little bit. And now you can see it's not even, you go through the window and it's way low. Yeah, it's way dusty too. It's been sitting in the yard for a while. So I got to remount the dash. I want to do that. Move the dash up so it's in a more proper scale position. Cobwebs. She's been sitting for a few. So yeah, next after I do, some engine bay and interior work, is the interior work. It's kind of just a stock interior for now. I'm going to make some other, ads and do a few things and start getting different, setups in there. But yeah, I'd like to finish up the engine. Like I said, I was trying to 3D design and print a water pump, which I got mostly. I should try to do one again. It doesn't look bad. It's a little square, not really square, but a little edgy. It doesn't really have a nice rounded edge, but it ain't bad. I should try to print another one and get that in there. And then see what I can do for pulleys and belts. I bought the RC4 drive stuff, but it's way too large. And the RC4 drive engine would not fit between the SSD shock towers, I think. I don't think it would fit in there. So we'll stick with the SSD engine. Plus, it's a lot lighter. But yeah, I think I get it a little bit cleaned up. I think that'll look tits, man. Just tits. It'll look titties. Yes, I'm an old school guy. I like titties. Titties and beer. But I'm not a beer drinker, so yeah, I think it will be sweet. But this is one of the things I really like about SSD stock out of the box, man. Look at that steering angle. I mean, this thing has hella, you know, uh, turning radius stock out of the box. Guess I'm on the stuff here, but there it is, all the way to the right. Now I'll crank it. All the way to the left. I mean, it really has 54, 56 degrees. I mean, it pushes a little bit more than what the Vanquishes have. And no double knuckles or anything like that, like the Mias has popped out with in another company, which is kind of a cool idea. I mean, it works out great. Gets you a lot more steering angle and less binding. But yeah, these things really got some steering radius. And I was amazed at how well this thing did across the Fieldstone course. It was mostly, stone out of a, farm field. Boulders from basketball size and bigger down to 3-4 inch size boulders, a lot of undercuts and hollow spots and dropouts. But yeah, I was really surprised how well it did. But part of why it did so well on that course was because of the steering. But it's top heavy as hell. Although it rolled a dozen times, it was pretty crazy angles, and some of them actually it made it. So I was kind of surprised. It floated a few that I totally expected to roll, and the wheel floated out and it didn't drop and float because it's a fucking pig, man. This thing's 8 pounds, 9 pounds, gallon of milk at least a gallon of milk. Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna go grab my last smoke out of that pack. I plowed through the last one. So yeah, hadn't done a lot with it, and wanting to get back into it, and just haven't really taken the time to do it. But yeah, I really dig the way this thing looks too, man. It was a fun build when I did it. This was the first build I did when I got back into the RC game under Rona. When COVID locked out, I had knocked off, and I was remodeling assisted living memory care facilities at the time. And of course, they all locked down before, the state locked them down and started, sending people to their deaths in them. So I was stuck at home, and actually, even though I was a right on OGs, even though I was a contract employee, a gig worker, if you will, they allowed gig workers to draw unemployment for the first time ever in the state of Michigan. So I qualified. And I was sitting at home flush with cash and nothing to do. So I got back into RC instead of doing all the shit that they wanted you to do. Go to pot shops and spend it there, but can't go to the barber or paint anything. Ignorance. Yeah, I'm still a little raw over that bite. Right on. But yeah, so this is my first build. I got the hobby or the Red Cat axe. I looked around and went, man, Red Cat wasn't that great back in the day, but they weren't too bad. This comes with what appears to be pretty good, gear, this race stuff. This was 2020 here, 2021. This Hobby Wing, I really wasn't familiar with them. I got out in 2012. Wasn't familiar with Reese. So it seems like pretty quality gear. This Fly Sky radio for $500. The rig's $300, but you're getting $320 of electronics for $200. So okay, I'll jump in with the hobby or with the Red Cat axe. Gen 8X rig. And that was a pretty nice little rig. And then I, started looking around, and, ooh, SSD, and went to Axial and checked them out. Seen some of the Vanquish stuff, but not a lot. I didn't come across the Ripper cage system, because if I had one, I would have bought a third one of these. So I bought two. I would have bought a third one, and it would have turned into a Ripper. If I would have seen that thing back in 2021, I'd have nabbed one. But I didn't find the Ripper until late 2022, 2023, and they pretty much stopped selling them by then. Would have been a Ripper on the SSD platform. So, anyways, got looking at this, man, and I thought, oh, yeah, I seen the RC4 drive stuff, and I wasn't really familiar with them. But I had done a lot of reading on the forums and went, the quality of the gear ain't bad, but the bodies look really good. Okay. So I bought the body and was lining it up and looking at it, going, wheelbase is a little short. I really don't want to shorten the wheelbase. So I'll leave it stock and go for the RedNeck sticks of Blazer on a 2500 HD frame or a 3500 HD frame. And that's what we got. That's why it's trimmed out a little bit. I actually had 120 millimeter shocks, but they're way too big. Wheels drop. I can pick it up, and wheels right there would still be on the ground. Way too much shock. So I went back to the SSD 90 millimeters. I may try a set of hundreds, but I think these 90s actually set real well. But that's why it's trimmed out in the back and the front, because you have to make a little bit of clearance to get them in there. Old is gold, exactly. One of the other things I thought about doing with this, because, well, the hood opens, right, and the tailgate opens, but the doors don't. I've been considering modifying, the body and making the doors open. It wouldn't be too hard to do. Be a little work. Getting the hinges right would be important, but I think I could do it and make these doors open too, which would really help detail the scale out ability of it. It's surprising RC Polo Drive hasn't done that or didn't do that with any of their hard bodies, because it would be a really cool mod. And that's something I think I could do easily. You'd have to be really delicate with your cutting abilities. I think I would hot knife, take a razor blade. I've got a not Craftsman, Weller. I got a Weller soldering iron that adds an attachment to put a sharp, X-Acto knife blade in. I think a X-Acto knife blade, getting it hot, nice and hot X-Acto knife blade, it would cut through this stuff pretty good. And be clean enough to give you a cut to cut the doors out, and then actually turn around and hinge them out and put them back on. So I may try to do that. One of my ideas on my other one, I was going to build out like my dad's old Blazer, but I ended up trading that for Rift. And that's the one regret. I wish not that I don't mind the Rift, but I would have used the Blazer SSD Trail King set up as my old man's Blazer. I would appreciate it a lot more than I do the Rift. I hardly use the Rift. We ain't got the stuff to use it in, so it's probably going on a chopping block. But I was going to take and V-notch the doors, and then put a couple bars in there like you see a lot of people do. So, because they are stock and they don't open. So I may do that. Take the windows out, V-notch the doors, run a couple pieces of plastic through it so it looks like a roll cage on the inside. But yeah, this is a fun build. I enjoyed doing it. And like I said, I got more to go. I want to, correct the dash, get on the interior, add some stuff in there, get the engine bay decked out with what you would expect to see mostly in an engine bay, from the brake master cylinders and some brake lines, running down. That's why on the engine you see fuel lines running down the front to where a fuel pump would be down on the motor. as well as the throttle cable sliding back. That's why they're up on there. So at least you can kind of see them. Oh, wow, throttle cable, cool, yeah. You can't really see anything underneath the mechanism. They're just kind of stuck in a small hole on the fake carb. But yeah, really add the scale details to it and then turn around and put a stereo system in it. I bought a stereo stuff to build a stereo system. Small little Bluetooth that you could hook to your radio, but it's actually got an FM tuner on it. So I could actually tune a radio in through Bluetooth, but tune a radio in the rig and have a full radio system with a kicker box and 6x9s and door speakers and dash speakers. Is a regular three-way with bass, four-way, three-way speaker system. Because in the boards I bought, one of them's got a high-low, so it's got a low end and then a full send. So it's got one cut off for just low-end speakers, so you just send low end, even though they won't work that great, it'd still just be a low-end signal. You can turn up a little bit louder and get a little bit more bass out of it. Try to build a small little box that really dump it down and make it really lo-fi, low-end bass box, so you get some kind of cool sound. But it'd be cool to be somewhere and pull in a local radio station on the rig. It's scale stupidness. I know I got one of the meters. I think I got them both. I took them off because they kept getting bounced around pretty heavily, but I do have the mirrors for it. I think you can get fold-away mirrors now made out of metal from RC Four-Wheel Drive, where they actually fold over and fold in. So I might buy a couple of those and put those on it. I think that would look pretty good. Do the fold-away mirrors. I had to do a little bit of shock work. It's a heavy pig. Like I said, when I first set it up, it wasn't quite this bad as far as weight, but I've added a lot to it with the roll cage and bumpers and shit. So I'm going to have to thicken up the shock fluid and probably put some heavier springs on it. But I love the fact that I can lift the hood and no longer have to, put a stick in there to hold it up. Those springs work pretty good. And I think if they're a little bit tighter, might be able to remove a couple, rounds off it and then hook it, make a new hook on the end of it and tighten those springs up just a little bit. It'd be a little bit better to hold up. It ain't bad, but it just kind of, holds it. It could do a little bit better. But I love the fact that you can do that, and now you can kind of see the motor in there. Pick you up a little bit, turn you down, and bring in. So yeah, this build was, like I said, fun build. It actually handles pretty damn well, but the weight it rolls and rocks, and you hear it squeaks like a real truck is going to. It's kind of pretty cool in scale. The only thing I don't have is any lifter tick. SSD transmissions don't tick. So it's not a true, Chevy small block if it ain't got some lifter tick. See you later, Joker. Have a good one, buddy. Thanks for hanging out, man. So yeah, I might have to do something and introduce a little bit of tick, so at least it's got tick 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 when it's moving. But yeah, I am kind of surprised at how well this thing actually handles for as heavy, top heavy as it is, because it is pretty top heavy. Well, that went faster than I expected. I was hoping I would be able to get that oil pan out. I wasn't sure though, because I really didn't funk with it too much before. I was kind of pissed with the top end, made sure the motor all fit, and that's where I kind of stopped with it and quit, dicking with stuff and got into other things and got busy and blah, blah, blah. 5 years later, here we are. Now, the cool thing about this build, too, is these front lockouts that SSD put out actually work. They're actually, you got to turn them and you can unlock your front end. And freewheel the front. Still there. I think that locked it in all the way. Try to turn it the other way and see what happens. It's been so long since I dicked with it, I don't remember which way you got to turn them. There it is. Now they're freewheeling. So yeah, you can, and the other one's still, oh no, I guess it ain't either. Both unlocked. Guess I had that one unlocked already, maybe. Yeah, now this one's freewheeling and this one's locked. So I wonder if it's freewheeling now. I wonder if I was actually running with 3-wheel drive, which wouldn't surprise me. I never checked anything. Counterclockwise on the passenger to lock in the 4-wheel drive, I believe. Takes a little bit of turning to get them in there all the way. Yeah, it's locked in now. No, not that I have found in any true one-to-one. They don't offer lockouts. It's all electronic. It fell off. I've got it laying around here. I have it. I don't know if I've got it up underneath here. Oh, don't see it there, so I might have it in one of these tubs over here. I thought maybe actually it might be. I put it in this tub, but if I put it in here, it probably fell out. It might be laying in the bottom here, getting all mucked up. Hopefully not. The stuff out that belongs in there, back in there. But I do have the Chevrolet emblem around here somewhere. I just gotta find it. It was laying in the bottom of my one bag I was carrying it in one day. I went, oh, I know where that goes. And yep, it was missing. So I took it off and set it down. It's laying here somewhere. I have to find it, and when I find it again, I'll glue her back on. Might even take a letter or two off it just because it's how they tend to be. But yeah, she's taking some battle damage, some scars. She's got the K5 side mount, emblems are still on it. Both of those are still on. But yeah, it's laying around here somewhere. Might be right here on this piece down here somewhere. I put it somewhere where it would stay pretty flat and wouldn't get really mucked up from being bounced around on crap. I wouldn't mind finding it and putting it back on. Shoe glue works great. But yeah, it's not far. I just gotta figure out where not far is. But yeah, this is the my, like I said, my first build when I got back into RC in 2021. Basically, I come across these SSD kits. Went, man, those are really pretty nice kits. Maybe I should grab one. So I did. Whoops. Can't move that there. I don't think I've got it in here. We'll look. And I'm pretty positive I don't have it in this one, but I'll look in here too. Nope, didn't think so. So yeah, it's laying around not too far away. Time to celebrate. One-to-one K5s. Then my old man in 1978 bought in 1975. Was the green, that bright metal flake, fine metal flake green and white like this, but the orange was green. And the other blazer body of the SSD kit I built was a, plain body. It was great. So I was gonna, paint that up like this, but like the old man's with that green, and actually go buy the actual green paint from Napa. The actual, you can still buy that Chevy green. I was gonna go buy that stuff and actually use that on here. Got that wrapped in there. How did I do that? All right, let's see. I can probably pull the excess out around the motor. Get you up over there. Get you stuff out over here. Up and around the motor. There we go. That's how I did it. This goes up through here. That's how it got wrapped up in there. There. That'll lock it back in there. Yeah, the old square bodies, man, they are still solid. I had to go down and get bleeder screws for my one-to-one, my Silverado. I got a 98 for the rear brakes today because they were both pretty shot and needed to bleed the rear brakes and stuff. And they were having a car show at the little local, parts store down the road, a couple miles. They had a couple of old ones. There was a 71, maybe a 70, could have been a 72. I didn't go out and take a real close look. And then there was like a 77, 78 square body that somebody had. They're real nice looking. The 71 was clean. It was real clean. 78 looked really clean too, but I didn't get as close to it. It was a little farther across the lot and I didn't have time. I wanted to get shit done. Didn't have a lot of time to sit there and go check out all the cool rigs, but that is something surprisingly I've never owned is a square body, except for the old man's. After he died, it was mine for a couple of years. Well, it was my mom's for a couple of years until she sold it. She wasn't fond of us taking the top off it and throwing lawn chairs in the back and driving around with pony kegs in the back of it in the 80s. Back when it was still not that big of a deal, if you will. But yeah, me and a couple buddies of mine, one had a Ford Bronco, another one had another, short box Chevy truck. And we'd put lawn chairs in the back of them, just regular metal lawn chairs with the green and white woven mesh. Throw some pony kegs in the back, and that's how we'd go hang around town. We wouldn't go hang anywhere. We'd hang everywhere. Had a few run-ins with law. Nobody ever got in trouble. Well, at least us older folks did. By the time the 80s were over, that was full boating. Big no. Especially for younger kids. But shit, man. 82, 83, 84, when I was in high school, it was a party. So yeah, there's a lot of work I want to do, and I'll probably try to start working at it over the winter. So you're a few years younger than me. If you're 56, if you've had your birthday already this year, you're born in 69 or maybe 70. If you haven't had your birthday, you might have been born in 71 would be. My ex is born in 71, my ex-wife, whatever you want to call her today. We're back together kind of again. Yes, no, maybe, who knows. But at any point, she was born in 71. I was born in 66. Back when you could still have fun. But at least some of us had fun. My old lady's parents were helicopter parents. So fun was rebellion for her. Yeah, I like that. Being able to lift that and it stays up even partially or until you get about halfway down. It's like a real hood. The only thing I wish was different. Oh, okay, it is. I was going to say it's got the square headlights, but it don't. It's got round headlights. I thought they were square, but they're round. I was going to say for a minute. But no, this is actually quite a capable truck. It's sad to see SSD hasn't done a lot. Hasn't done a lot more since they released the lockouts. That was pretty much the last big thing. They've, I think, dropped a few rims from them, and they've been so quiet. I thought, well, hopefully they're designing a newer platform, because as far as I can tell, the SSD Trail King platform is 2017, 2018. So it's, 7, 8, 9 years old as far as based off basically the 10.2 platform. So that was already pretty old by the time the SSD released theirs. But yeah, I figured a nice detailed out interior, she'd look pretty good. Might add a little rust to the wheel wells. No cab corners per se, but rockers, and rust up the rockers a little bit. Probably take these mounts off the tab, these big orange lubs here, just because they look kind of ugly without the actual other bumper. But overall, they ain't bad. Maybe I can figure something out to do with them. But yeah, I ordered a new winch controller today. It'll be here Monday. I meant to order it yesterday and didn't get it in. But it'll be here Monday. So Monday I'll have another winch to work. So this winch works. The winch works, is not getting the controller. Tried to power it up on its own. No juice. No love. Somewhere or another, it just quit working. But overall, this has been, like I said, this was a good build. If you can find the Trail King, I've seen somebody actually, I made a Facebook Trail King page. Somebody posted one up there with a bunch of RC 4-wheel drive items. All right, OG, man, we'll talk to you later, buddy. Take care. I'll catch the video as soon as you get it uploaded. And somebody posted a Trail King with all the stuff for the build, motor and servos and everything. They're asking $900. This is only about 3 weeks ago. Excuse me. Maybe a little less, 2-3 weeks ago. I think January or July 23rd. So it just recently posted, and I hadn't visited the site and the page in months. And I seen that. Ooh, wouldn't be bad, especially if I come across a Ripper cage that's reasonably priced. But yeah, on that note, I think I'm gonna go ahead and shut out. I've been going an hour and a half already. Got done what I wanted to do. Got the motor mounted. What else was it? Got the winch controller pulled out. Whatever else I did on it. Something else. Oh, hinges. I did that last night. But I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. Thanks for hitting out and hanging out for the vid, guys. Appreciate it. Hit the like, share, and subscribe. And like I always say, if you subscribe to me, I'll try to subscribe to you. And I'll make sure I'm subscribed to OG's RCs here in a few minutes. But you guys have a great night. Thanks for hanging out. And we will talk at you later.